To talk about the fallout of Operation Dhritarashtra, I first want to go across to Chief National Spokesperson of the BJP, the party's Chief Spokesperson and General Secretary, Mr. Ravi Shankar Prasad, now joined us on this broadcast. Mr. Prasad, my first question to you is about whether Mr. Salman Khurshid can continue to remain the country's law minister while the trust he runs is facing such serious allegations. Do you believe a free and fair probe is at all possible, Mr. Prasad?
Well, I will like to put it in context, Rahul. Here is a case where allegations came about based upon documents which were found to be forged, based upon names of recipient which was found to be incorrect. Yesterday, he doggedly sought to deny it with a lot of aggression, though the Aaj Tak headlines today team needs to be complimented as to what they did. Now, this was an issue beyond politics. This was an issue basically of humanitarian aspect, where people who are physically disabled have been in one way not given the benefit meant for it, for which the fund was flowing from the government of India. Now today there are additional revelations which your channel is showing, many other channels are also showing. In this light, there is a larger issue of moral obligation. There is a larger issue of moral culpability. I think it is high time he has to take a call. I would not like to see it purely in the context of a fair probe. Fair probe is certainly important. It must be there. On issue of pure humanitarian angle for physically disabled people, there can be no politics. And if any probe is sought to be influenced, it will be further culpability per se. But the larger issue is, he has to take a moral call. What his claim he made yesterday stands completely demolished today in the light of fresh revelations. I think it is high time the government needs to intervene. Sonia ji needs to intervene. Mohan Singh needs to take a call as to why this is happening, as to what is happening.
Given the fact that the Ministry of Social Welfare and Empowerment has been aware of the malafide which have been pointed out by the Disabled Welfare Department in Uttar Pradesh, given also the fact that the SP and the Congress are in an alliance at the center, do you believe that the investigation that is currently being carried out in Uttar Pradesh will lead to a thorough and clean conclusion without being influenced by the politics at play?
Surely apprehension is there, Rahul. Why not? They are in alliance. Though the CM of Uttar Pradesh has sought to allay those fears, but that has to be tested in the background as to what has been happening in the past. There is a case of an affidavit about which many serious questions are coming about. Therefore, a free and fair probe is of great essence. And I would like to flag three issues in that context. The trust is being run in the name of a person who commands wide respect, the former President of India, Mr. Zakir Hussain. His relationship with the Khurshid family is entirely insignificant in this context. Second, the fund of Government of India is involved, which sought to release fund as alleged, in spite of being aware that a lot of forgery is there, and these old things have been given to people who are not existent. And lastly, as I told you, is a larger humanitarian angle. Physically disabled people, handicapped people are being denied, and a politics is sought to be made. Therefore, if in the light of these glaring facts, if a fair probe is not done, completely independent, it would be a travesty of democracy.
One of the comments that we've seen from Mr. Khurshid's cabinet colleague, from Mr. Ravi Prasad Verma, is that the amounts involved are very small. It's only 71 lakh rupees, and therefore it's no big deal. If the amounts involved were bigger, it would have been a much more serious issue. Because the amounts involved in comparison with Colgate or 2G are probably small, do you think that makes the charge any less grave, Mr. Prasad?
What does it mean? Should we presume that Congress ministers take cognizance of any wrongdoing or corruption or pilferage only when the amount is huge? The amount is not significant, Rahul. What is important is the way we govern ourselves. Do we pilfer also in case of funds meant for the poor, namely handicapped, physically disabled, by a trust run by the family member of a minister? Therefore, facts are too evident. Amount is not evident. And I would say, If this kind of treatment is given to physically disabled or handicapped people, it has a larger moral price, much than other price which we talk about.
You know, because Mr. Digvijay Singh says, why should Salman Khurshid resign just because of a media trial or because Kejriwal is sitting with 150 people at Parliament Street? If ministers start resigning because of allegations, we will have no cabinet left.
Well, does the Congress party take Mr. Digvijay Singh seriously? They have twice said he is not the spokesperson. But in case of any wrongdoing which has been alleged, he has been using very strong words indeed against all those from CAG to Ramdev to Anna Hazare to any other body. You see, the allegation or this type of language, I don't want to stoop to that level. But the issue is, are the facts stark or not? Are the people who are claimed to have been the beneficiary openly disputing that or not? And does it relate to an association with a person who is a senior minister in the government of India or not? Therefore, I am again repeating my point: moral culpability, moral accountability, moral responsibility.
You're talking about moral
plight of the handicapped.
Responsibility. Arvind Kejriwal is attacking the BJP as well. He says the BJP is deliberately keeping quiet. There is no opposition in the country. Everyone is exposed, and every political party, the Congress and the BJP, are hand in gloves. How do you respond to the charges being leveled by Mr. Kejriwal?
Well, I wish to repudiate with all the emphasis at my command against this charge. Mr. Kejriwal is new to politics. He is entitled to make his comments, to make his party politically relevant. But who raised the whole issue of black money in foreign countries? Advaniji moved the entire country in the Chetna Yatra. Who raised the issue of Commonwealth? Who raised the issue of 2G? Who raised Colgate, a big issue in the country? Come on. Even in case of electricity irregularity in Delhi, the BJP in Delhi has been fighting for the last so many years. We all know it. Therefore, for the sake of political posturing and positioning, if some claim is there, I don't want to join issue. But if he's saying BJP is the B team of Congress, sorry, that's completely wrong, and I deny it completely and emphatically. BJP's fight against the misrule, malgovernance, corruption and price rise of Congress-led UPN government is too well known.
Mr. Kejriwal also says, one final question to you before I begin my debate. Mr. Kejriwal also says that the BJP is actually concerned because a senior BJP leader in Himsa, that it could be your party president, Mr. Gadkari, will be exposed soon. Therefore, the BJP is very guarded about what it is saying about allegations against Congress leaders.
I think that is again, I would say with great respect, very unfair, grossly unfair. Mr. Gadkari has done nothing wrong. If they come with some statement, we will reply to it suitably.
Okay, Mr. Ravi.
What's the point of worry?
Mr. Ravi,
our record in the fight against corruption of UPA is well known.
Alright, Mr. Ravi Shankar Prasad, I'm going to leave it over there. Thank you very much for joining us with the BJP's perspective. That was BJP's Ravi Shankar Prasad. I now want to shift our attention to the big debate, where you've got Mr. Kejriwal on the one side, along with Prashant Bhushan, and you've got Salman Khurshid on the other. It's an out-and-out political face-off. And we're having that debate now on center stage. Joining us is Mr. Prashant Bhushan. He's a key member of India Against Corruption. With us also is Majid Mehman. Thank you both gentlemen for joining us on this discussion. I want to first go across to Prashant Bhushan and ask him about the charge that's being leveled by India Against Corruption and by Arvind Kejriwal that Salman Khurshid must step down because a free and fair probe is otherwise not possible. You know, what the government says is just because there's a charge, if people were to start stepping down, then several ministers would have to quit. Therefore, let a probe be conducted. If he is found guilty, he will quit. Why are you pressing, sir, for the resignation of Salman Khurshid?
See, the question is, at which stage should a minister resign when he is faced with serious allegations of wrongdoing? In the present case, it's not merely our allegations against Mr. Salman Khurshid. There are already the following pieces of very strong prima facie evidence against Mr. Khurshid and his trust. The first is the report of the UP government itself, which finds that there are as many as at least the signatures of 10 officers of 10 different districts which have been forged in order to try and show that camps were held and equipment for handicapped people distributed. Not one but 10. And this report of the UP government is a report after investigation. In addition to that, there is also this show cause notice issued by the Social Welfare Department of the Union government itself to the trust, asking them to explain all these things, to which no reply was sent. Beyond that, there is already a CAG inspection report on the same issue. When Mr. Salman Khurshid was asked yesterday in the press conference about all these, not one but more than 10 forged signatures, thereafter a forged certificate from an officer which was published recently by the Times of India, which an officer who had retired already, this letter is purportedly written 3 months after his retirement, on the basis of which fresh funds were sought and given from the Social Empowerment Ministry of the central government. The question arises whether this is not adequate prima facie evidence on the basis of which he should resign pending a proper criminal investigation.
Okay.
Of course, this investigation by the EOW wing of the UP government may not be credible for the reason that the head of the Samajwadi Party, which runs the UP government, is himself facing a CBI investigation, a very serious CBI investigation for disproportionate assets. And we have seen how the CBI has been used by the central government to pursue the case against Mr. Mulayam Singh Yadav, then withdraw the case, then pursue it again, then withdraw it again, depending upon where and when, at what time they need his support or not.
Mr. Bhushan has laid the grounds for this debate.
So therefore the question is, he can certainly influence this investigation, being in the position that he is, just as he produced that one person yesterday. He had earlier produced a affidavit of an officer who later denied that that was his affidavit.
Okay, you've laid the grounds for this debate. Let me bring in the representative of the UPA, Mr. Majid Memon. You know, given the influence he holds as the law minister, given the fact that the prosecution wing of the CBI reports to him, given the relationship between the SP and the Congress party, how can a fair probe be conducted while Salman Khurshid remains the law minister, Mr. Memon?
Rahul, now see, I have heard my friend Mr. Bhushan now, and I am only putting a counter question to him, that on his own showing, he has been good enough to express that, well, the process of probe into the truthfulness of accusations against Salman is on. Heavens are not going to fall. The process was on. The welfare ministry was doing something, CAG has given some report, some investigation is on. Though heavens were not going to fall, tell me, does he justify a union law minister who was honored on a foreign soil? The moment he steps into his country, he is taken lock, stock and barrel, head on, at the airport itself, as though he has committed serious murder. And then he is not able to open his mouth. He is a man with great shame and distress. Is this fair in our country? Bhushan, will you please tell me that this is the rule of law?
Mr. Majid, answer the question at hand. The question is, can a free, fair trial be conducted while he holds such an important position? Answer that question.
Just give me one more minute. You see, as we all know, and Mr. Bhushan knows it fairly well by virtue of himself being a law officer and an officer of the court, a legal luminary. I'll just pose this question again to him, that Mr. Bhushan, if there are accusations against you, we would not hang you. We would not want that the people must come out on the street and start trying to malign you and humiliate you in the manner in which Kejriwal and company are doing. What we would want is that there has to be a fair probe into the truthfulness of the accusation against you. Now there is an inquiry. The inquiry goes on, and the inquiry reaches a point where a criminal offence is disclosed, which would result in registration of a complaint or a FIR. It is at that point that there is substance, prima facie, against a person, then the question will come whether that person should step down or not.
Okay, let
You know,
Prashant Bhushan respond to that.
prejudging everything.
You've given your counter, let Prashant Bhushan respond.
Well, that stage has already been crossed long ago, because there are already preliminary investigation reports of the UP government, which after detailed investigation came to the conclusion that as many as 10 utilization reports of 10 different officers of 10 different districts have been forged by Mr. Khurshid's trust.
So why the crime
and
is
sent
not
to
registered?
the union government.
Get a crime registered,
Pardon?
then the man will have to step down. Mr. Bhushan, you know
So the
law
question is,
so well.
when will the crime get registered?
It would get registered when...
is the prima facie evidence not enough for registration of an FIR against Mr. Khurshid?
Yes.
When will it become enough?
No,
I mean, your ministers, Mr. Beni Prasad Verma, says that 71 lakhs is not a large enough amount.
Now,
That
Mr.
this is
Bhushan,
a piffling amount for a minister.
Now, please
as a criminal lawyer, does the law
let us
make
not
any
deviate to
distinction
Mr. Beni
between
Prasad's
71
statement.
lakhs and
I will,
71
in a
crore?
minute, I will explain what Mr. Beni Prasad wanted to convey. Unfortunately, the words that he expressed were improper. Therefore, he is meeting severe criticism.
We'll come to Beni Prasad Verma in part 2 of our debate.
Let us
Majid
not talk
Mehman,
about Beni
restrict
Prasad
yourself to Prashant Bhushan's argument that
Yes.
already there is enough prima facie evidence for an FIR to be registered, for criminal action to begin. Why don't you respond to that? But the question is, because he's law minister, no one is going forward and taking action. We've got officers on camera saying because he's law minister, they're scared of taking action. Otherwise, his trust would have been blacklisted by now. There is an officer on record saying this, Majid Mehman. Mr. Menon? Majid Sahab?
Yeah, you are.
There's an officer on record saying because Salman Khurshid is law minister, they don't believe that they can go ahead and take action against him.
No,
Otherwise,
I
his
don't
trust
think.
would have been
No,
blacklisted.
I'm sorry, Rahul. I'm sorry. See, I don't accept this. There is no difficulty for even a small magistrate or a small officer from investigating and carrying on his duties under the law of the land, be it law minister or anybody else. Only exception is the home minister, under whom the police machinery works. So if Salman would have been a home minister, probably I would have come closer to what Mr. Bhushan or Mr. Kejriwal are saying.
But he controls the prosecution wing of the CBI. He controls the prosecution wing of the CBI, which will determine Mulayam Singh's fate. Mulayam Singh happens to be the father of the Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh.
You see, then you can't expect truth to ever come out from any possibility. Tell me, if Salman steps down, can he not yet influence? He is a powerful minister. He has been a minister for a long time. He has several friends around. Even outside his office, he can influence if he has to.
Okay, let Prashant Bhushan respond to that. You're saying, given his stature, he can influence the probe even if he's no longer minister. He is still an important member of the Congress party. Let Prashant Bhushan respond.
Our system, our machinery is not such that it could easily be influenced either way. No. There are firm officers. Let there be an honest probe. If he has to
influence the course of inquiry, he can do so.
Why
even if he's not
when the whole nation
let
is
Prashant
watching,
Bhushan
nobody
respond,
can
Mr. Menon.
When the whole nation is watching,
Prashant.
nobody can influence, including Salman.
Well, no, you are right that he may still be able to influence the CBI and still maybe be able to influence this investigation even after he ceases to be a minister.
And
but his ability and his power to influence it would become less. Today the situation is that when there is such overwhelming prima facie evidence, which is not even prepared to
the time will come when the crime will be registered, then we can ask him to step down.
He will not respond. He will not respond to the charges of forged, fabricated signatures of as many as 10 officers.
All that needs to be examined.
10 officers.
First, the facts need to be examined, then the law is to be applied. There is a procedure in place, and thereafter the trial takes place. You can't jump the gun.
Tell me, as a criminal lawyer, according to your honest opinion, is this not enough for registration of an FIR and starting of a regular criminal investigation? I would have thought that even the sting operation or the story shown by Aaj Tak was more than adequate for registration of an FIR.
Mr.
But that story is backed up by an investigation report of the UP government.
Permit me, Mr. Prashant, to answer your query. See, if a complaint is lodged against you, you won't simply be arrested. You won't be humiliated. What is required is that first the facts, listen to me for a minute. First, the facts are to be put in place. The truthfulness, prima facie truthfulness in the accusations are to be examined by a settled yardstick. But it is only then that every individual's liberty is protected. Or else you are yourself a fighter for personal liberty. Why are you forgetting, Mr. Bhushan? We are liable when we are duty bound to protect personal liberty of every individual, howsoever small or big.
Okay. We are not asking for Salman Khurshid to be arrested. In fact, we are saying
so why do you want him to be? Why do you want him to punish him by quitting his office? Only because Kejriwal wants or BJP wants? Certainly not at this stage. Unless you make out a solid case of there is no possibility of a fair investigation, save and except the fact when he quits, which case cannot be made out.
Well, that just shows the moral bankruptcy of the Congress party, the standards which they have now adopted for public life, saying that even though a minister may be found guilty or his trust may be found guilty by 3 different official agencies, the UP government, the CAG's office, the union government's officers themselves, even thereafter he will, and even if those officers have come on camera to say that their signatures have been forged, etc., even thereafter the union government will say
facts need to be examined according to the
continue as minister.
Okay, we've heard both from Prashant Bhushan and Majid Memon on the first question that we put on the center stage face off tonight. I want to shift our attention to the second big question. Prashant Bhushan and Arvind Kejriwal today laid out more proof. They got people, one of whom, and I want to just take some names and play out that graphics as I begin this part of our debate. You know, there is one person who's shown as being a beneficiary, but he actually died in 2009. In 2011, his name is Jeevan Singh from Bulandshahr. You know, he's supposed to have died in 2009. In 2011, he's supposed to have received a hearing aid. His family says he got no hearing aid. Somebody who says he needed a hearing aid got a crutch instead. Several such discrepancies have now come to light. You'll see them on our screen, one after the other, on the basis of the new evidence at hand. Do you not believe, Majid Memon, that the defense that was put out by Salman Khurshid has completely been demolished? He said there was no wrongdoing. Now there are people who are coming forward to say that my father died in 2009. How could he have got any aid from the Zakir Hussain Trust? Somebody else saying I actually needed a crutch whereas I got a hearing aid, and some people actually coming out and saying that they haven't received anything at all, even though they are shown on the list of beneficiaries, and you can see the proof now up on your screen. Majid Memon, I'll start with
Rahul, you hold for this Salman responsible personally? Now tell me, if there are thousands of recipients of benefits, and if somebody dies and it is not notified, his name continues to be there, so you would attribute criminal motives to that? Certainly not. You see, there are thousands and lakhs of people in our country who are dead, but their names continue to appear even on the electoral rolls for years together. That this is some kind of a, say, neglect or some kind of omission. This can't be considered as a criminal offense,
you can't hold the law minister responsible for this at all. Let Prashant Bhushan respond to your argument.
See, it's a case of fabrication of the list of beneficiaries. What this shows is that the beneficiaries who are shown by the trust as having received these aids, etc., have been fabricated, because if you are showing a dead person who died in 2009 as having received something more than 1 year later, obviously you are fabricating that evidence, or you are fabricating those facts. But quite apart from that, you have fabricated a large number of signatures of official people purporting to say that they attended this camp and they found that everything had been done fine, that all the equipments had been in fact given away, etc. Now I can understand that Mr. Salman Khurshid does not himself see all these things, does not himself supervise the activities of the trust. If his response to the story or to the investigation reports of the UP government and CAG, etc. had
Mr.
been
Bhushan, just
that,
one
well,
second.
I
Touch
would
your
welcome
heart.
an investigation,
Mr. Bhushan, touch
that
your heart and tell us.
I am prepared to remove all these functionaries from my trust, etc. immediately. In fact, he goes out with a very stout defense of everything that the trust has done. He says all the camps were held. He says all the people were given all these things. He says all, and he does not respond to the issue of forging of signatures, etc.
Mr. Bhushan.
Obviously, then he is going out on a limb to defend everything that the trust did, and therefore owning up responsibility for everything that the trust did. That's not the response of an honest person.
Mr. Bhushan,
let Majid Memon come in.
Just give me, Mr. Bhushan, touch your heart and ask a question to yourself. Whether Salman would be interested in earning money out of this petty amount of deprivation to a handicap? Does it appeal to your conscience that
I
you would
agree
do
with
so?
you. Normally
Certainly
he would
not.
not
Listen
be.
to me. Please
I
permit
agree
me.
with you.
Please permit me to complete, Mr. Bhushan. I have heard you. Now tell me one more thing. What you have enumerated is certainly a matter which needs to be examined. This would be called irregularity, and this needs to be probed. Salman himself would rise to find out that who is responsible for this deprivation and would suggest serious most action against the person who is erring. How can you ask the law minister for this to quit immediately, humiliate him and just do all kinds of tamasha on the street only because you are talking of these facts? Can tell me, would Salman want a handicapped person to be deprived of 500 or 1000 or 5000 rupees? Do you want to, that Salman wants to earn money out of this? It is ridiculous for you to believe. I thought that you, in of course wiser counsel, would prevail upon you and you would say that, well, these irregularities need to be eradicated. The trust must function properly, but this does not
Majid
need
Memon,
a
why
call
do you
of a law
say? Let
minister.
Prashant Bhushan
What is
come in
this
because
going
I
on?
also want to take this debate further.
You
Does
see,
it warrant call of
normally
a law
if his
minister?
response had been a reasonable response, rather than this very aggressive, belligerent response to a story which is done not just by the channel on the basis of just merely their own investigation.
No, there is some substance.
It's a story done
All right.
by a channel on the basis of at least 3 different investigation reports, which have been done on the basis of extensive investigation
let
done
it take
over
its
the
own
past
course.
1 year by 3 official investigating agencies. First, there is the investigation of the UP government, which after 1 year investigation gives a definitive report saying that at least the signatures of 10 officers of 10 different districts saying that they have utilized, that this trust has utilized all this and given away, distributed all these aids, etc., are found to be fabricated.
But
that
Prashant,
in many of those cases, even camps have not been held.
No, but
Prashant,
Majid
now
Memon
this
must
is
answer
the
that question. Yes.
Prashant,
Yes, no,
just-
Majid Memon, but you must answer this question. You are
Yeah, I am
admitting that there were
answering.
irregularities.
Ask
Hear
him
me
to-
out, hear me out. You are saying that yes, there seem to have been irregularities.
See,
You are admitting that. If it was the
Mr.
odd irregularity, we would have believed what you are saying. But
Mr.
given the fact that there are 10 officers who say their signs were forged, given the fact that a fake affidavit is submitted in defense, given the fact that now ghost beneficiaries are found, this isn't the odd irregularity. This seems to be a case of repeated and continuing irregularities at the Zakir Hussain Trust.
Now,
Mr. Majid Memon.
see, Rahul, Mr. Bhushan will also agree with me because I know that he has the legal background. He would agree with me that all these accusations need to be put to the person against whom they are leveled. And during investigation and inquiry precedes investigation. Now, during inquiry, a law minister, certainly who is holding a very important position, must be afforded an opportunity to explain each one of them. And it is only that he is unable to explain them, and thereafter, if there is sufficient satisfactory evidence for disclosure of a prima facie offence, then the crime would be registered, then the law will take its own course. Why are we jumping the gun? Why are we just trying to say that no, what Mr. Kejriwal is saying must be taken as truth, what Mr. Bhushan is saying is to be taken as truth? No, the law, the system is in place. People are doing their job, let them do it, let Mr. Salman meet it, and if he does not successfully counter that, he will have to face the music.
Let
and
Prashant
thereafter
Bhushan
the law will
respond to
take
your
its own course.
argument. Mr. Bhushan.
Mr. Menon knows very well as an able criminal lawyer that even the Aaj Tak story was good enough for registration of a regular FIR in this matter. But apart from that, as I said, there are three official preliminary inquiry reports of the UP government, of the central government, of the Comptroller and Auditor General. On the basis, even if after this Mr. Menon feels that even an FIR does not need to be registered, even after this, and even after this a regular criminal investigation need not be done, and the minister can continue to hold an office where he can decidedly influence the course of this investigation, then I am afraid that
on the second part of the center stage face-off for tonight. On the second part of the center stage face-off, we've heard both from Majid Memon and from Prashant Bhushan, and I want to shift our attention to the third and concluding part of our debate this evening. Because of the relatively small amounts involved, because it's only 71 lakh rupees, does that make the charge against Salman Khurshid any less grave, especially on the back of what his cabinet colleague Ravi Prasad Verma said? He says it's only 71 lakh rupees. Why would someone like Salman Khurshid need to rob handicapped people of such small amount? I put that question first to Prashant Bhushan because this is not as dramatic as the 2G or the Colgate scam, 1.86 lakh crore rupees. Those are the sort of scams people are talking about. Does 71 lakh rupees seem relatively innocuous, and does that make the charge less grave? Prashant Bhushan goes first.
Well, let's first look at the law on this. The Prevention of Corruption Act makes no distinction for the severity or gravity of a crime because of the amount of money involved. If you have conducted defalcation of public funds, if you have committed the offense of forgery, it makes no difference whether you have done it for 10 rupees or 10 billion rupees. Now, a number of lower level government officials have been sacked, charge sheeted, imprisoned for defalcating 10 rupees or 20 rupees, etc. What the Congress party has today adopted a standard which is unknown to law, according to which they say that if a minister or if a powerful minister does a defalcation of public funds, that amount must be 71 crores at least for it to be taken seriously, for it to be investigated, or for that person to resign. I mean, it just boggles my mind. What I can understand is they're saying that normally a minister who is in a position to make hundreds of crores by abusing his official position would not stoop to such a low level of defalcating funds running into a crore or a crore and a half, etc. But the question is, does this mean the facts are speaking for themselves?
Okay.
There is more than enough documentary evidence to suggest that, and therefore does it mean that the minister has become brazen enough to believe that everything goes, that he does not run any risk of being investigated or being questioned for anything that he does?
Okay, you
and
made
that
your
he
point.
allows his trust or people running his trust to do anything at all, even if it is defalcating small sums of money?
Okay, before Majid Memon responds,
Rahul,
let's just for a quick moment
listen
to what Ravi Prasad Verma says, then
Rahul,
we'll come to Majid Memon's defense. I'm coming to
लेकिन हम मानते हैं कि 71 लाख में कोई कपला सलमान खुर्शीद जैसे आदमी नहीं कर सकते। 71 लाख बड़ा छोटा अमाउंट है सेंट्रल मिनिस्टर के लिए। 71 करोड़ होता तो हम भी सीरियस होते।
क्या उनको रिजाइन कर देना चाहिए?
बिल्कुल नहीं करना चाहिए। इसीलिए हमने कहा केजरीवाल जैसे लोगों को जो पार्टी लाने जा रहे हैं, रात दिन नहीं भूखना चाहिए, कभी कभी दौड़ना चाहिए। रात दिन भूखने वाली गिनती बहुत छोटे लोगों में हो जाती है।
Prasad Verma is smiling, laughing, mocking the entire episode, saying if it had been 71 lakhs Majid Memon, he would have been 71 crores, he would have been serious. 71 lakhs is too small an amount for a central minister. What sort of a comment is that coming from a senior cabinet colleague?
Well, Rahul, I entirely agree with you, and to considerable extent I agree with Mr. Bhushan on this count when he says that, well, if it's criminal offense of, say, embezzlement or a bribe or something of that kind, then it does not matter whether it is 71 rupees or 71 lakh rupees or 71 crore rupees. So to that extent, there's no dispute. But let me tell you, make it very clear. What Mr. Beni Prasad wanted to communicate or convey is something different what he in fact in words said. What he means is this, that, well, Mr. Salman, with his stature, with his background, with his culture, with his record, is not expected to commit this kind of a fraud or embezzlement of this amount of the handicapped people. He would never stoop that down. What he meant was this.
Okay.
It is just
but that's not what he said.
You see,
no, you're assuming he meant something else. Because what he said, everybody heard. Prashant Bhushan, Majid Memon's got a theory on what he meant, but the whole country heard what Beni Prasad Verma said.
Therefore, I am explaining that, Rahul. Please give me a half a minute. You see, 71 rupees deprivation of a handicap is also a matter of serious concern for every right-thinking person, including ourselves. We would say that. It is not that. But then the question is that whether Salman would stoop down to the extent of misappropriating this much amount, which is belonging to the Viklant for his personal gain. Certainly it appears
let
indigestible.
Prashant Bhushan respond,
that is what
you are attributing motives and finding reason behind what he said. But he said what he said and the whole country heard that, Prashant.
See, unfortunately, functionaries in the Congress party today, or the Congress party, has somehow come to believe that speaking in an Oxbridge accent or being invited to Oxford University to give a talk, etc., confers you a license. It gives you a kind of birthright to loot this country, and then you can say, ki, look, this person can loot this country, in his position, he can loot this country for hundreds of crores. Why would he do it for 71 lakhs?
This is not
when
fair,
the facts are speaking for themselves, the documents are speaking for themselves.
You want to
And
hold
the
him
person and the persons who question this or who raise this issue are called gutter snipes. That persons who are raising this issue, who are questioning the minister with his Oxbridge accent, who gets invited to Oxford University to give a talk, etc., merely because he is being questioned, the persons who are questioning him are called gutter snipes? I mean, is this the culture that the Congress has now
Majid Memon respond to that. Is there not a rank elitism at play over here? No, Mr. Majid Memon, hear me out. Is there not elitism at play over here? When Salman Khurshid says, I went to Oxford, I taught law over there, why would I rob my own constituency? That is taking away from the key charges. The forged signatures, the fake affidavits, those are the points he needs to counter. None of this has to do with his pedigree, his legacy and his educational qualifications. Majid Memon.
You see, first, Rahul, let me answer to what Mr. Bhushan said. Mr. Bhushan must, of course, I respect him a lot for his knowledge of law, but unfortunately, it seems that he is taking the course with Kejriwal, who have got political ambitions, and therefore in politics you can stoop to any level. So therefore, I don't.
No, let's not digress. Let's stick to the
now. Let me tell you one thing, Mister. There's nothing wrong. If Salman was honored, we should be proud. If he was honored in Oxford, Mr. Bhushan, tomorrow you should be honored or I should be honored. It's a matter of pride for the whole country. Why do we find fault with that aspect of this man at all? Let us leave that alone. We are talking of the accusations against him, and if you can make out as a competent lawyer a strong case against him, he will have to face law. He can't escape that. But then please don't presume that he has looted the country or he has committed the crime. It doesn't lie in your mouth, at least as a law officer, that you would jump to the conclusions and pronounce judgment that Mr. Salman.
Okay, I'm out of time on this debate. I'd let Prashant Bhushan have the last word.
Well, I just want to say that what we are seeing today is a different kind of political culture from what we thought this country had acquired immediately after independence. from a time where Lal Bahadur Shastri resigned as railway minister merely because of a train accident under his department in which he did not personally play any role, we have now reached a stage where a minister of that same Congress party, even when confronted with more than adequate documentary evidence of forgery, fraud, pilferage, uh, 3 inquiry reports which show that, is still sticking to the stand
Okay.
that he has done no wrong and therefore he should continue to be in a position where he can influence any future investigation into all this wrongdoing.
Okay, we've heard from two highly articulate lawyers arguing their cases very passionately. We don't wish to take sides. Whether Mr. Khurshid should resign, can a free and fair probe be conducted while he remains law minister, is a matter for debate. We don't want to take sides. You've heard two very different perspectives. You, as our viewer, must decide, and the case, of course, must be proven in a court of law. That is crucial. Thank you very much, Prashant Bhushan and Majid Naman, for joining us.